Tec Sounds presents EduTrends.
Welcome to EduTrends, presented by the Institute for the Future of Education. This is a Tec Sound podcast, the official podcast of Tecnológico Monterrey. I am Jose Pepe Escamilla, and I am Associate Director of the Institute for the Future of Education. Today's guest is Pati Ruiz, Director of Learning Technology Research at Digital Promise. It's a pleasure to have you here, Pati.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure for us. I would like to start with a personal question that we always do that in this podcast. It's how you ended working in education, and what was your journey to be working in Digital Promise?
Well, it was a long journey for me. So I studied computer science as an undergraduate and ended up doing a lot of volunteer work in schools, teaching students about computing. And so that work led me towards earning my teaching certificate in the United States, in the state of California. And from there, I taught for many, many years and also held leadership positions in schools as Dean of Studies and Director of Technology. And I ended up wanting to go back to complete my doctorate, which I did in learning sciences and emerging technologies, which led me to research and to Digital Promise. And Digital Promise, just for those who don't know us, we are a global nonprofit and we work at the intersection of research, practice, and technology. So it was a really good fit for me to end up at Digital Promise.
Wow, interesting journey. I also can relate because also my undergraduate is in computer science, but my journey was a little bit different, but I also ended working in education. And this combination is very unique because you are trained in computer science, so you understand very well how these AI tools work, and also in learning sciences, how people learn on the use of technology. So I would like to pick your brains and have some insights on how universities can take advantage of these tools for deeper supporting learning, student engagement, and also being more inclusive, no? That everyone gets something good from these technologies and it doesn't become a new divide.
Yeah. No, this is a very important question that we've really been investigating with practitioners. And we understand that there are a variety of use cases where we have seen AI become integrated and more integrated into the classrooms because of its nature of being an arrival technology. And what we are interested in doing is helping educators be able to integrate this technology more responsibly into teaching and learning so that it can support learning based on those learning sciences principles where we know what works in education. These implementations do require thoughtful planning and partnership and ongoing reflection, right, to get them right. So a key question in the research that we're doing for me as it relates to the technology is how can we translate the best of what we know from the learning sciences as well as educators' wisdom? Because one of the important things is that our teachers are our most important asset when it comes to education, right? They have expertise, they have pedagogical expertise, as well as content expertise that we need to bring that wisdom of practice into a partnership with these algorithmic solutions so that we can strengthen teaching and learning with the support of the technology, right? Always keeping the educators at the forefront and in the driver's seat so that they're the ones making decisions that work in their context based on what we know about learning sciences and what they know about their subject matter, as well as the learners that are in their classrooms.
And one of the things that worry me the most recently, it's cognitive offloading. So what I like to make this analogy that it's students are using ChatGPT as if I pay a membership for a gym, and then I ask someone else to go to the gym instead of me, and I expect to develop muscles. No, it's very convenient that I can delegate that. So they are somehow delegating some processes to ChatGPT that can be instrumental in the development of those fundamental thinking skills, like I call this complex thinking, no? Which is thinking, scientific thinking, creative thinking, systemic thinking, that are those are like one of the most important cognitive process to be a good user of AI, and paradoxically is also those that may not be developing when students do cognitive offloading. So for me, it's very interesting to know if you can comment something about this, or what strategies can we use to make sure that we develop those kind of skills, or how can we change evaluation so that we're sure that these things are being developed, or maybe I'm just having a fear that is not fundamented.
No, it's definitely an important one. And one of the things that we have learned from a recent review of research in post-secondary education is that faculty and institutional leaders, as well as students, are experimenting with generative AI, but there's a lack of reporting about those implementations. So we need more studies to help us understand what's really happening cognitively, and how this technology is impacting learners. What we do know is what we've studied, what we see in the literature that you talked about cognitive offloading, and how experts use Gen AI systems and tools versus how non-experts use Gen AI systems and tools. And I think that one of the interesting examples that has been shared recently is when workers who are experts in their domain are using generative AI, they are able to critically evaluate the synthetic outputs of the generative AI, right? Because we know that these systems generate false results that are very convincing to us and that we think are correct. And so when experts generate something from a tool, they know what makes sense and what doesn't, and they also are able to frame their queries in ways that will be useful to them in their work. This is not something that our students inherently know how to do with this tool. And we often make the mistake, just like we did with social media, with previous technologies. There's a misconception that students are digital natives. That's not reality. We all need to learn to use tools responsibly, and generative AI is no different. When a non-expert is using generative AI, they tend to over-rely on the results of generative AI because of the way that it's presented, right? So we have a responsibility because our students are living online, right? A recent report from Pew Research showed that teens on average are spending 8 hours per day online. And these are the children coming into university settings, right? 39% of them say they are on social media almost constantly. That is alarming, right? And it just shows how much online they are. They're living these digital lives. And as an arrival technology, Gen AI is there, right? Gen AI is there, and we need to help them navigate their digital lives. And so there are different things we need to do as educators, and one of them is to support the self-regulation of learning, right? Generative AI is integrated into our tools, um, but we need a way to scaffold metacognitive processes such as reflection, planning, and monitoring our progress so that we are able to track performance and so that we can help our learners track their own performance and understanding. But like you said, it's like going to the gym. It's hard to do. We know we need to do it. We know it's good for us. It's hard, and learning is hard, and generative AI is not going to change that.
Mhm, mhm. That's a very very good response. Thank you, Pati. So it reminded me also of a book by Dominique Boulier, a French sociologist, that he will be presenting in 2 weeks in IFE conference called this is in French. No, it's digital humanities. Is digital is humanities. No, he's calling them because he talks about AI, but also at social media, how this the use of technology is changing us as humans, no, people. So there are very profound effects that we can have. We are witnessing now with those profound effects of digital social media, but also what will come next with continuous use of AIs. And in coming back, I don't want to be reiterative, but coming back to this cognitive offloading, do you know if there are some hints of like strategies or more like practical stuff that someone that it's a curriculum designer, a dean, or again a professor, no? What are the things that they could look at to find some? I think we're still learning. No, it's still there are not research, and I understand that there are not a lot of research. What could be the things that we could do?
Yeah, no, there is a lot we need to be doing, and there is more, like you say, there's more research coming online as we go. So um, we need to be able to support learners to develop AI literacy, and that has a lot of uh, skills and practices that are key. But in the end, it is developing foundational skills, right? Foundational skills that as educators, we know we need to develop in our learners. And the way we define AI literacy is that it includes the skills, the knowledge that enable humans to critically understand, use, and evaluate AI systems and tools safely and ethically, in order to participate in these digital spaces, right? I will share with you the AI literacy framework that I led the development of at Digital Promise. And for us, it's a set of those interconnected modes of engagement, right? You need to be able to use this technology, you need to be able to understand it, and you also need to be able to evaluate it. And this is interconnected. It's bidirectional, right? We all continue improving, and we're all starting in different places when it comes to the use of AI and the development of AI literacy. Of course, for us, at the center is always the human judgment and then the centering of justice. Because for us, we believe that artificial intelligence holds promise to help us solve complex, persistent challenges in education, but we have a human-centered approach that requires AI to serve as a tool to augment rather than to replace the role of the teacher and the expert, right? And when it comes to the specific skills that we can develop, there are many that we can focus on. But the two that I will highlight are the very important analytical skills. So helping learners to evaluate the outputs of artificial intelligence by verifying information with external sources. We call this lateral reading, right? So when we get an output from Gen AI, opening up another browser and typing in to double check that that is in fact correct. I don't know about you, but I do a lot of research. And recently, there have been research articles that I have not written that people have asked me for a copy of. I've not written that piece, right? That's why it doesn't exist. That's why they can't find it. So Gen AI has made up a citation and attributed it to me, right? And that's happening to so many of our colleagues. And we need to make sure, like, the citation is in the right format. It looks right. It has a link. It has a journal attached to a legitimate journal, but it doesn't exist. So that's what we need to be figuring out. We need to help students apply problem-solving skills, and we want to complement those with AI analysis of AI. We want to help them draw meaningful insights from AI-generated information, and they're good at this. I think I'm worse when it comes to images and videos. Like, I believe that they're all real, but young people are able to detect better than I can when those are false. So continuing to help them develop those skills. And I think we're moving into a space where we need to always question. It used to be like verify and validate, and now it's like the default approach with all the content that's being generated is to not believe it unless you are able to uh, unless you know that it's true or are able to prove that it's true, right? Always question from the beginning instead of just assuming that the video, the text, the images that we're seeing are accurate. And then again, those are the analytical skills. We also have a whole host of interpersonal communication skills that we need to continue developing, the technical knowledge and expertise, and then the ethical evaluation so that we can mitigate the risks. You talked about the barriers earlier, and how these tools are not designed for everyone, right? And we need to make sure that our learners who have different ways of approaching learning, for us in the United States, historically excluded populations, all have a place at the table and are able to see themselves represented in these tools. And then finally, we have those adaptive skills. So we need to be adaptive and be able to navigate the rapidly evolving landscape that is AI and AI in education. And it's going to be a lifelong issue for us to continue developing.
Mhm. Thank you, Pati, for your response. And I'm interested in some of those reports that you mentioned. I think that we have to take very seriously the development of those non-disciplinary skills. If you go to whatever university and you ask the president or the dean or whoever, does your students develop critical thinking? They will say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And show me, how are you intentionally developing critical thinking, and how are you assessing critical thinking? What is the level of this competency in your students? They cannot answer that because it's something that is like implicit on the process. No,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that with this wave of technologies that, by the way, educational institutions didn't ask for something that can do the homework of students. No, so it arrived. No, is there?
Yes.
So face it. With those tools, it's becoming most important to be able to assess that. No, so in the case of tech, that we have this educational model by competencies, we are doing some work there, so that we can assess somehow the level of development of these non-disciplinary competencies. But still, there's a lot of work to be done in that space, so that we are sure that our student. I'm giving an example at the university level, but it can be at any level, no?
Yes.
And the only way that you can develop critical thinking and creative thinking and all that is when you really go very deep into a field. No, so I'm not saying disciplinary knowledge is not important. Disciplinary knowledge is still important, and when you study, I don't know, computer science, you go very deep into that. If you do liberal arts or humanities, you go literature, you go very deep into that, and it's a different way of working, but you still develop these basic skills that are very important. So the focus on those things has to be. We have to pay more attention to that and be more intentional and measure that towards the future.
Absolutely, yes. Those durable skills continue to be foundational, and we have a responsibility to integrate the development of those skills throughout the curriculum, right? From the beginning. And we need multiple entry points for learners to get that digital literacy, AI literacy, because we never know what their educational backgrounds have included and have not included. So it's always important to continue reinforcing these skills. And to your point, the assessment becomes challenging because we know that in order to really understand the depth of knowledge of a learner is complicated. And one of the things that we're starting to see in the workforce is that some of these foundation model companies, the big AI companies, in their interview process of the people they are looking to hire, are banning the use of their own tools, right? They want to know what the person is bringing to the table without the support of artificial intelligence. And they know a lot about these things, right? So we also need to take cues from those industry giants who are requiring one-on-one, face-to-face interviews to ensure content area expertise in like very specific engineering fields or other fields, right?
Yes, yeah, you're right. Just this morning, I interviewed Carlos Delgado Clos from Universidad Carlos III de Madrid for our Spanish version of the podcast. It's called EduTrends en Español. And he was saying his son graduated from computer science and get to work into Amazon, I think. And the interview was, you have to program this, you cannot use any tool, then you have to explain orally your process of thinking, no? So it's a very, in-depth evaluation with also the metacognitive part, no? Somehow, how are you planning? How are you verifying? How are you? You're right. No, when these big corporations are looking for the best talent, they have developed these methodologies to be sure that when they hire someone, they have those skills. So there we have a lot to learn from them in how we do these evaluations in our educational institutions. No.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, Pati. Well, I will ask you a last question, because before we say goodbye for this podcast, and my question is a more like a prospective question. Now, looking ahead, and what excites you most about the future of teaching and learning, and what concerns you the most? No, and you can pick up a window of time, like 5 or 10 years, whatever you want. So what excites you? What concerns you most?
Yeah, so I'll start with the challenge, right? And educational challenges, as you know, are more difficult than they initially look. And with the power of AI models, we are missing many kinds of very specific educational mechanisms that are necessary to address the needs of today's learners and educators. And so applying these technologies in ways that are promising, um, that's not yet happening, right? That's not yet widely available. So my hope and what excites me is hopefully more in the near future. So in the 3 to 5 years ahead, is more of a focus on broad adoption of tools that work to close the educational gaps and that are built on building blocks that have high standards for safety, for privacy, for fairness, but also that are being built on learning sciences and research so that we can accelerate and deepen that transformation and impact for future educational products and services. So we do need a lot more research. We need the development of infrastructure to be able to do this. We have launched a project working with foundation model companies, researchers, funders, to begin the development of these infrastructure elements, which include data sets, which include models, and which include benchmarks to test those, and to provide these as digital public goods so that they're freely open and available for folks who want to be designing with them, and so that we can begin to provide these tools to more people so that more folks can access high quality tools to build their products off of.
Well, very, very interesting future, and I adhere to it. So more research-informed digital tools that are doing what they are supposed to be doing, but also with responsibility, in terms of ethical and inclusion. Thank you, Pati. Thank you. I enjoy a lot our conversation. Thanks for your time and generosity, and I'm sure that our audience will also enjoy it, and I hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.
EduTrends is part of Tec Sounds podcast, the official podcast of Tecnológico de Monterrey, an initiative of the Institute for the Future of Education. Host, José Pepe Escamilla. Recording and production, Cristian Guijosa and Esteban Venegas. Post-production, Orlando Oliveros. If you enjoy this episode, subscribe, share it, and help us bring these ideas to more people. See you in the next episode of EduTrends.